Welcome into the BSN Avalanche Weekly Breakdown presented by Bender's Bar and Grill.
This is Jim Armstrong, former sports columnist at the Denver Post. These days, I own Bender's up in Westminster in the Westminster Promenade Ice Center. If you don't think we're the preeminent hockey bar in the metro area, you haven't seen the framed Original Six jerseys above the bar. We have poutine on the menu. That must make us a hockey bar. All kinds of good stuff on the menu. Come on up to Bender's and check us out.
I'm Allie Monroy, and alongside me today is BSN Avalanche beat writer Adrian Dater. The Avs continue their 4-game road trip when they take on the Pittsburgh Penguins on Tuesday, the Florida Panthers on Thursday, and the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday. Dater, how do you see these next few games playing out?
Well, Allie, going to be tough. Pittsburgh Penguins are a team that's won 2 of the last 3 Stanley Cups. They're having a bit of a tough year. They're playing without their number one goalie right now, Matt Murray, who's out probably long term. But they've still got Sidney Crosby, you have Evgeny Malkin. We saw last week what Sidney Crosby can do in a game. He scored a hat trick against the Avs, but the three-headed monster line outdid him and the Avs won. I think it's going to be a tough game against the Penguins. I think if there's one out of 3 I'm pretty nervous about, it's the Penguins game because they're going to want revenge. They've been sitting around at home for a little while. They're a pretty tough team at home. That said, should be a great game to watch. Florida Panthers are the team they should beat Thursday night. They are not having a good year, which is par for the course for the Florida Panthers. They rarely have good years. So that's a game that I think they should win. Saturday night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They are the top team in the league right now. They've got 41 points. They are number 1 in the league. They did beat the Avalanche here 1-0. I think it's going to be a great game, though, and I think the Avs are going to play pretty well that night. I think they're going to want revenge against that Lightning team. I'm going to call for an Avs victory that night. I'm going to say they pull it out, something like an overtime game. So I'm going to go 2-1 the rest of the trip. Maybe they can sneak out a win or a point against the Penguins, but let's not get too overly greedy here.
Well, Tyson Barrie is set to return to the lineup on Tuesday in Pittsburgh. How big of an asset do you think he will be for the Avs?
Oh, huge, Allie. I mean, he's a guy who runs the power play. So even though the power play was pretty good without him, he's a guy who's a puck distributor, makes shots. More importantly, though, he's a guy who gets the puck out of the zone. The Avalanche did have some problems, I think, the last few games, at times getting hemmed into their own zone. And that's partly because they don't have a Tyson Barrie playing 20 minutes a night who can just skate it out on his own. So he's back. He just brings, speed and skill from the blue line. The Avs have more of that than they've had before with the addition of Sam Girard. But Barrie gives him that sort of 2-headed monster on the blue line. We've got a 3-headed monster on the front lines, but him and Girard make a 2-headed monster back there. It can only help when Tyson Barrie's back in the lineup, and that happens Tuesday against Pittsburgh.
Well, we are now 27 games into the season. Dater, how do you think Philipp Grubauer has been so far?
Yeah, the backup goalie for the Avs played a lot better lately. I think he's got a 6-game unbeaten streak, might be 7. So, ever since that disastrous game at Vancouver where he allowed 7 goals, he's been fine. He's been great. I mean, great, maybe an overstatement, but very good. So I think he's going to play a little bit more down the stretch. Now, we're 27 games into the season. What does that leave? 55 to go. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Grubauer play, let's say, 2 out of every 5 games instead of maybe 1 out of 4, like it's been. Or basically, I'm going to go 40% instead of 25%, something like that. But Semyon Varlamov is still the number 1 guy, yet I think Philipp Grubauer is a guy who is going to be crucial to the Avs in the second half to give Varley that needed rest. And assuming this is a playoff team, go into the playoffs well rested. That's a very important thing for a goalie. Grubauer's play is giving more optimism to me that they'll go into the playoffs with no problems in goal.
Well, Adrian will be in Florida for these next 2 games, so be sure to catch all of our coverage on bsndenver.com. For Adrian Dater, I'm Allie Monroy, BSN Denver.
If you're a football fan or a hockey fan, you got to check out Bender's off of Highway 36, just off of Church Ranch Boulevard. 32 beers on tap, served in chilled glasses. We're a watch site for Coloradans for Nebraska and Steeler Nation of North Denver. So if you're a Husker fan or a Steeler fan, you're a recent transplant to Denver, come on up to Bender's and check us out.